a good week. Like
College football nation. We are back. We are back with another big week. We are a quarter of the way through the season. And I gotta be honest with you, we're pretty hot. Our show has been good. I mean, I've won every week in college so far this year. And I'll tell you what, I am loving the way this slate is looking for us this week. I got my plays pretty dialed in. I'm looking forward to breaking this one down with you. Dave, how you doing tonight?
doing great, Joel. This is awesome. Friday night, getting ready for tomorrow's slate of games. It's not just DFS, but it's just for betting, for everything. Like tomorrow is like an awesome slate. Like so much offense, so many good close games. It's that peak of the conference, like kind of games. We get the Red River rivalry. We get all that like cool stuff that we're ready to pounce on. And I'm ready to talk with you. And I can't wait to break down this slate.
Well, before we do, I guess you said it already. The Red River rivalry is always a fun game. It seems like it's always a shootout. Like there's always a ton of points scored. Is that going to happen again this week?
It's tough when you lose Gabriel, and like I don't know which way to go yet there, but I can't see why points wouldn't be scored. I can't see how Venables' defense can hold anyone down at this point. So I'm leaning towards points, and Urs should be back. So I do think points are going to be scored.
All right, we're going to get to it in a moment. But Dave, tell me, recap for me a little bit. How did we do last week?
We did, once again, very well. Like you, I didn't sting anything hard, but it was enough to just be above the line, which was perfect. I think last week we just learned the game stacks are still live. And that Kansas State game stack was huge last week. If you could get, I know Gabriel kind of blew it, but I'm getting Dugan in there. We talked about him. Adrian Martinez in the K-State TTU game. And combine him with Deuce Vaughn, I think was really good play. Either way that you could have gone. Donovan Smith was solid. We talked about him, but they were 2-3, Adrian Martinez and Donovan Smith in the same game. So that was good. And then looking at the running backs, I mean, we were all over Gibbs. We talked about it. That, Arkansas defense is just trash. And then getting into the receivers, Hutchinson was probably our best play. But we had some other deep ones in there. A.T. Perry was solid again. And Johnny Wilson putting up 21 for Florida State. We talked about that at 5K. So good week once again.
Yeah, Kendra Miller was my biggest trade running back.
He was huge.
Yeah, and I think last week, obviously the Duggan and Martinez plays were just, slate breakers, which, we did mention. But even if you weren't on them, right, I think if you were on enough of the other guys in between, you still cashed last week, or you were still having a profitable week. So making sure you get your player pool nailed, right? I think that in college we're learning more than anything, you can't sacrifice slots, right? If you are consistently getting your production of every position, even if you miss on the home run hitter, consistent production from every position will get you money in return. That's what you got to do in college. And you can do that, but you got to be disciplined, right? Don't try and pay up for every top price guy, because then you have to start dipping, and that's where you get yourself into trouble. So let's break down this week. Now, the good thing about this week, I think we said this last week too, so similar notion. I do have a handful of value plays that I really like this week, which allows you to spend up in a few spots to kind of even that out. So we'll break that down as we go through everything. But for today, let's dive right into the slate. Let's go right into the depth stretch. We'll go game by game as we always do. This week, as we were saying right before we started the show, there might not be as many spots as normal to completely fade a game. There's no Iowa on this slate or anything like that. So we might fade a game or two, but for the most part, there's at least one or two players to highlight in almost every game this week. So we'll dive right in. We'll start with this Florida-Missouri game, which I think is really interesting to start because Florida's defense has been bad.
Right.
And you can target them. Now, I don't think Florida's offense, there's not a ton I like there because they spread the ball around. They have 3 running backs they play. They pass to a bunch of receivers. I can understand playing Anthony Richardson, who can run the ball. I don't like Richardson. I just think he doesn't do enough throwing, and you're really just playing a running back. And he really has to have a huge running day for it to work. But at 6,800, I can get behind it if you really like it. However, I do like a bunch of guys on this Missouri side. One of my favorite value plays is going to be Nathaniel Pete at 5K, who looks like, they do split carries, but he's the primary back. He's really cheap. Florida got absolutely torched on the ground by USF, and I don't think Missouri's any worse than them. I probably think they're better. So if they give him the opportunities, if they let Pete carry the ball 20 to 25 times, I think he could have a monster day. I like Brady Cook. I think Brady Cook at 5,700 is the one value quarterback I think could be in play this week against a poor Florida State defense. Brady Cook will run a little bit. He's not the greatest passer, but you can pair him with one of my favorite value receivers in Dominic Lovett, who's been targeted, at least 6 times every game. He's at a few 100-yard games. Putting him at 3,800 seems like a mistake to me. What do you think, Dave?
No, I think you're right. That was one name I was highlighting. I think 3,800 is, just a premium price. We've been nailing those guys that are underpriced each week. And I got 2 stars next to Lovett. I think that's big this week. Florida's defense is, not very good, as you mentioned. I'm not sure where I'm at on the other side. Like you said, the ball's spread too wide. I'm probably not much in this game, but I think that's my favorite play. I'm with you.
Yeah, I'm actually going to play a ton of it. I think the amount they throw him the ball for his price is just a great opportunity. I keep in mind, Florida is a 5-star program. That they do have some good corners. It is possible they can shut him down, but I think it's just a good spot for him here at this price tag. So I will be playing him.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep this moving to this Tennessee LSU game. Tennessee, Herndon Hooker's probably the best quarterback in the nation. He's definitely top 3, if not for sure.
Yeah.
And not only do they have the best quarterback, they play at the fastest pace. So
you
get the most plays from the best player at not the most expensive price. That's almost matchup agnostic, right? Unless he's playing Alabama, I think Herndon Hooker is going to be in play every week.
I think he's an auto play. Yeah, I mean, at this point, and I mean, I don't think they're overpricing. When you look at other guys like Stroud and, you're going to have to pay $1,000 more for a guy like Hooker versus an LSU team that I think he can really exploit. And, Heupel wants to play at that fast pace. I think he's in play almost every week. I won't get there until it's 9K that I'll start thinking about, do I got to look at the matchup? At 8,100, I don't even have to worry about the matchup. That's how good I think he is.
Yeah, I totally agree. Because again, Herndon Hooker can pass, and he's a runner. Yes. You're playing 2 players, a passer and a runner, in the same lineup.
Right.
Love him there. Because I do play a lot of Hooker, I do think Jamari Small's in play. I'm probably not going to have too much of him this week. I do have a little respect for this LSU defense. They're not bad. They're no cupcake. So, I'm going to prioritize Hooker over Small. I can understand others getting behind Small and playing them, but I just got to make cuts somewhere. It probably won't be for me this week.
Yeah, and it's a shame. I could see that. I mean, Tillman's out again, right? I think he's been ruled out. He's just one of those guys that when he comes back, we're going to smash play him. But, with him out, I think Hyatt gets a little bit of action. I'm also interested in McCoy. Like, for me, it's the script, I think, is more in the air in this game and Hooker on the ground. I like Small. I just don't love Small. I'd rather play the receivers in this.
I'm with you on Hyatt and McCoy. I like Hyatt more. I like both. I mean, obviously, if you need the salary, you can go with McCoy. I think it's a good play. The one thing that's leaning me toward Hyatt is the better player of the two.
I agree.
And McCoy last week caught, what was it, like a 70-yard touchdown, which made his numbers a little bit inflated. If he doesn't get the 70-yarder, right, the numbers are 5 for 40 and maybe a touchdown, right? It's pedestrian. Obviously, he does have big playability, and that's a possibility again. But I think Hyatt is more of the guy that's more of the goat. He's more of the replacement for Tillman, in my opinion, than McCoy is.
Yeah, I agree. And on the flip side, like LSU, like, are we ever going to get the Butte, breakout game? Because the dude I think he's special. Like, we've had the guys, Justin Jefferson was there, kid in Carolina right now. Terrace Marshall was really good back in the day, just a couple years ago.
Jamar Chase?
Yeah, exactly. Jamar Chase, like, it's
Odell
there.
Beckham? Jarvis Landry?
I don't think
for you.
Don't you think Butte's I don't think he's that far off from that class of receiver, but he stinks DFS wise right now. And I think a lot of it is with the quarterback, but it's surprising because Daniels is decent, right? Like, he's not terrible.
I think Daniels is a better runner than thrower.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to hurt a guy like Butte who needs some accuracy. Listen, you're right though. Butte's a premier talent.
4,800.
He's a premier talent, and he has been disappointing. He's going to be better than what he's shown thus far. That's for sure. Right? He's going to show something at some point. Going into the year, he was a first-round pick. So
Yes.
if he wants to get back into the first round, he's got to do something this year to do that. At this point, it's risky though because he hasn't shown us anything. He did just have a baby, so he took a week off for that. So there maybe was like he wasn't involved. Maybe there was some lingering things for him not being around. So maybe he's kind of getting reinserted. Play with caution. In some of my lineups where I do play Tennessee, where I play Hooker, I may play him as a run back, but I won't be overly exposed there.
Okay. Yeah, I'm probably with you, but at 4,800, this is a guy that has 30-point potential, but it also has 1-point potential. He could completely burn your lineup. So be careful. Better in GPPs for me because I just think, that upside is there and he'll be under 10%.
Anyone else? I mean, I can understand someone maybe wanting to throw a bullet at Noah Kane. I won't be, but I do think this will be a high-scoring game. He's 3,900. He'll probably get a few carries, but he's splitting with Emory, so split backfield, it's hard to get enough volume there. And Jaden Daniels, if you think it's going to be a big shootout and they're going to score a lot of points, I can see it, but I just think Jaden Daniels is just not that good of a passer, so you're really relying on his running here.
Yeah, his high so far this year is 30.8, and his low is 15. To pay 7,300, we've always talked about this with quarterbacks. I got to be able to get 35 to 40 points. I'm just not sure he can get there. Even though Florida's not great, I just don't know if he can get there. So, yeah, I'm probably off Jalen Daniels this week.
All right. Let's look at one of my favorite games.
Oh.
Listen, you already said it. Arkansas stinks on defense, right? And mainly at stopping the pass. And Mississippi State's going to throw the ball 50 times. So I'm all sorts of excited about Will Rogers this week and what he's going to be able to do on this defense that can't stop a nosebleed.
I love it. Like you said, big game by Mississippi State last week to beat A&M. And they're rolling. And I think this we've seen it. Arkansas is really bad, not only against the pass. You're 100% right. But last week it was against the rush. Like even when they knew they couldn't pass because, he goes out of the game, Bryce Young, they still couldn't stop anybody. 70-yard run after 70-yard run. So I could see us stacking Johnson as well with Rogers. It's a rare week where I could see us going up and down Miss State.
And not only that, Dylan Johnson gets 5 targets a game. He's for the running back a lot. So he can catch one too and basically be like a receiver. I'm with you. I like Dylan Johnson a lot. But the only thing that makes me nervous a little bit about Dylan Johnson is the fact that Marks is still involved. And Marks is still going to steal, 7 to 10 carries and 3 to 4 targets. If Marks was out, I would love Dylan Johnson. But even still with Marks, I still like him against this defense here.
Yeah. And the thing about this game, we always talked about in the past, like hard to stack running back, quarterback. Look, they're not going to steal carries from the running back. Will Rogers is not, he's, I think, negative yards on the year rushing. So it's okay to go that way, especially if you have a run catching back and a guy, if you're projecting 30, 35 points on Miss State, I think you could go both. So yeah, I could see that. Marks is tough. I always thought he was really good, but he's kind of like faded this year for me. So yeah, I'm more on the Johnson bandwagon, but Marks is interesting. It's just, I think that price is just not good enough for me to play.
I'm with you on that. Now on the receiver side, who am I going to pair with Rogers, right? And that's the thing. They spread this thing out. I mean, they get a lot of guys involved. You don't have to play a receiver with him. You can just play him alone if you want to. That's totally fine, right? Especially in a big GPP where you need kind of everyone to break a slate. These main receivers who are priced up a little bit. So I actually think a winning lineup could have Rogers without any of his receivers, and I think that would work. If I am going to play them, my 2 favorite are Ducking and Rara.
Yeah, I like Ducking the most. I mean, 6 TDs this year just seems to be that target in the red zone. So, and he's a cheaper, right?
He scores a lot of touchdowns, which is what you're looking for with a pairing in this type of matchup. Rara, I think, is interesting. Rara's a freshman. I think he's more talented than he should. I think he's just going to keep improving.
True.
And he's shown that he has been improving as the years gone. And I think he's the guy that I could see breaking out as that number 1 guy that ends up getting the target share. And maybe we get him a little bit early. The only problem is you're not getting him at any discount at 6,100. So if he has that big day, you're paying for it. But I do think he can.
Yeah, agreed.
Now, on the other side of the ball, if KJ Jefferson's healthy, I'll be interested at 6,500 because I think this could become a shootout. But I don't think he's going to be healthy, and therefore I'm treading very, very lightly. And especially if he's not playing, which that makes Raheem Sanders at 6,200 really interesting because he might get 30 carries in this game. And Raheem Sanders is an awesome football player.
Yes. Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, on this side, Miss State hasn't really been like tested by good offense, but they're still letting up a lot of points and a lot of yards. And I mean, I would love to hear the news tomorrow that KJ Jefferson is healthy at 6,300. It's almost a smash play for me. Like, I feel like that's a 50-plus yard rushing game and, 250-plus passing and with a couple touchdowns. So, we'll see. I think he plays, especially since they've lost a few in a row. This game goes over the total. I really feel it. I like this game a lot.
Yeah, if Jefferson plays, I mean, the pace of this game, the game environment, it feels really good. You want to target this game. Without Jefferson, I like I said, I do like Sanders a lot, but who knows what you're going to get from the Arkansas offense if they don't have KJ Jefferson.
Yeah.
All right. How about this TCU Kansas game? Both teams have had a roller coaster so far of a year. I mean, from Jalen Daniels coming out to looking like maybe a Heisman candidate, they're crashing back down to earth finally last week. And if you look at who they've played, I think it makes sense why he looks so good. He had some great matchups, and now going back to reality in some conference play matchups with some better defenses. I don't think he's bad. I just don't think he is what we saw for the first few weeks of the year. And then Max Duggan, who all of a sudden looks like he's throwing for 300-something yards every single game. And looks like he's someone that has to be reckoned with.
And running for another 50 or 60, he was gone. It was a track meet. He got loose in the open field, was gone. Yeah, listen, last week I think he threw for 2 and ran for 1, but they had like 9 touchdowns. He only had like 3 of them, but he was still worth the value. So versus Kansas, how can I don't know, man. This feels like such a good spot once again, doesn't it? I know Kansas only allowed 11 to Iowa State. Their kicker missed 4 field goals, but I feel like this is a great spot for Dugan. He's one of my – if he's not my favorite, he's number 2 on the board. He's in a great spot, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, he's been playing great. The one thing with Dugan that makes it tough is – and I guess, like we said before, you don't have to pair him with anyone. But who do you pair him with? These receivers are priced up here.
So I got burnt a little bit last week. I tried to pair him up. What's the guy's name? One more down. Go one more down. It wasn't Williams. It might have been Hudson, but there's a guy last year that used to light it up for them. No, it was Quentin Johnson. That's who it was.
Yeah, Quentin Johnson.
Yeah, and he sucked. He sucked last week. That hit me hard. So
the problem with Quentin Johnson is he's very big play. If he doesn't catch one, he's not going to get 8 catches for 90 yards. That's not Quentin Johnson, right? He needs to break one. And if he does it, you're going to get hit with it.
Yeah, what did he – I mean, last week, 8.3 points. When they're scoring 55 and he can only get 4 catches. I know I'll probably be somewhere on the sidelines when he breaks out, but for now he's off my radar, especially just because they spread it around so much. So it's probably Dugan, and that's it for me right now.
I'm with you. I'm not sure how I'm going to pair them just because I think they've overpriced these receivers.
Yeah.
I think one of them could have a big day, but it's just not worth investing in this price tag. There's other guys in the 6-7K range that I have way more confidence in at receiver that I'll go to. And we could play Dugan solo and play our pairings elsewhere. I will say this Kansas defense is actually better against the run than probably they're giving credit for.
Yeah.
6K for Kendre Miller, I think, is too cheap. So I'll have a little bit of him in the team. I think we'll score a lot of points. But I'm not going to be overly exposed to Miller because I do think this Kansas run defense has been okay. And I think they'll be able to at least contain him.
No, I think that's fair. I mean, Miller's averaged 197 yards a game. He's been very solid. I think he can get to that point. I don't know if he blows it up. But listen, at 6K, you get to 96 yards and you pop 2 TDs. I mean, we're rolling. So that's the key in this game. I could see Miller at this price being very valuable.
Yeah, he'll need those 2 TDs, which he can do because I think they're going to score points. So they get in the red zone, they run a couple in, then he'll get there.
Yep.
Now, on the Kansas side, if this does become a shootout, Jalen Downs is in play because he just, he's their main red zone threat on the ground. He throws them in. He can just he can easily get 5 touchdowns. The problem is you're lucky if he throws for 200 yards. He's not a great passer. And if he breaks a long run, maybe. I don't think he will. So if he runs for 50 yards, he really needs to get to close to 5 touchdowns to reach out, which is a stretch, possible, but a stretch.
I agree. Like it's odd because I've really ridden him like most of the season, but I just don't feel him tomorrow. I think this is like college game day is going to be, and it's going to be I'm pretty sure they're there tomorrow, and it's going to be a big like atmosphere. This is like Kansas. Are they ready for it? And Jalen Daniels, is he ready for it? I'm a little nervous about his potential in this game. He went underwhelming last week. He could be in the 20s, and that's not enough for what we need. So I'm a little off him this week.
I'm with you. Now, I do find Devin Neal interesting, mainly because Highshaw's out. And I think Neal might get a lot, whatever that makes an extra 10 to 12 carries, which could at 5,400 put him over the top.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, he's only been averaging about, I want to say he's averaging about 13, 14 carries a game. So if you could give me 6 more, 7 more, I mean, I love it. He just doesn't do a lot in the catching game. That's really what worries me. But 5,400, I could get there.
And that's what it is. It's he's pretty cheap.
Yeah.
At 5,400. And if he's going to get, that extra boost of 20 to 22 carries, that might be enough for him to have a good game. But this TCU defense is no slouch. So, this isn't like a walk in the park. He's going to guarantee have a good game. This is more of a good game environment, a lot of scoring, and a affordable back in that environment that you want to take a shot on.
Yep, agreed. And I'm off most Kansas receivers. We're just not getting a lot. Like Grimm being priced at where he's at is kind of silly to me. He's got like 200 or 300 yards on the year in 5 games. It's not a lot. I just don't find value in the Kansas receivers in this game.
No, they're not worth paying up for. They're just not. No. They don't have enough upside. They don't throw it around enough. There's no big plays. You really playing one of these guys, you need to count on them catching 2 touchdowns, which I guess is possible, but that's really
and break one, right? And yeah. I can never. I'm not that guy that bets on breaking one. Like if it happens, great. But yeah,
I'm with you. I'm out on those guys. All right, here it is. This is the game. This is going to be fun for sure, right? This is the one we'll all be watching. I think the elephant in the room, right, is going to obviously be Bijan Robinson, right? This is the best football player, definitely in the game, maybe in the country. He's probably going to be the first running back drafted in the NFL draft. $9,000, like I said, 90% of the time, $9,000 for a running back is too much. I can't play him. I don't think that's the case this week. Oklahoma's defense looks terrible. They can't tackle anyone. And when you bring a talent like Bijan Robinson in, that spells trouble in a game that historically is known to be high-scoring shootout. I think this is finally the spot. Now, Bijan has been good all year. He's a bunch of 100-yard games and a touchdown. But 100 yards and a touchdown doesn't pay off his price tag. I think this is finally the spot where Bijan goes for about 250 and 2.
Oh, man. And I'm already in with the 9K price tag. I just think it's one of those days. It's his day. Like, you tell me 250 and 2. I mean, I'm jonesing. I felt like I would get 150 and 2, like 250 and 2, and he can get there. I'm not against what you're saying. I love it. I think he's going to light up this Oklahoma team. They are just so, downtrodden, I guess is the word I'm looking for. They got beat down physically against TCU, and that's coming off a week when, what was it, Kansas State beat them down. I mean, we're watching it. It's in front of our eyes. I think Bijan goes huge. And he's been averaging, about 28, 29 DK points a game? Yeah. This is a week for 40.
That's without a monster. And I almost like even more that Ewers is back playing hurt, which means they're probably going to just feed him even more to keep the pressure off Ewers and just allow him to run wild. So it just seems like a great spot for Bijan.
It'd be smart to do that. And I agree with you. So I'm off everything Texas except Bijan. Because, I mean, even if Ewers comes back, like you said, somewhat 70, 80%, I'm just not there. I do like a few of the receivers, but I can't get all the way there. It's Bijan for me, hook 'em horns, and that's it.
I will mention, I do like Jatavion Sanders, their tight end. He's a big target. He's only 3,500. They throw him the ball in the red zone. He's got a few looks in the red zone. He's got a few touchdowns already at 3,500. This is a play that's kind of like if you're buying into the notion this becomes a shootout, and this is a guy that's going to get targets in the red zone. He doesn't need to go for 100 yards. If he gets 5 catches, 50 yards and 2 scores, that's more than paying off his value, which he could do.
I think that's a nice little sleeper pick. I like it.
That's my sleeper for this game. Now, if you love it, I just think I would have liked Worthy and Whittington more if they were priced cheaper, which I thought they should have been. At this price, I think there's better spots we can go at receiver. Again, if you're the type that wants to just target this game as much as you can, okay.
Go ahead.
But I just think they're a little overpriced.
Yeah, and I mean, look, and it is the biggest over-under on the slate, 68.5. And Worthy's always great, but I mean, Oklahoma's got some decent D-backs. I would prefer to stick with the running game, so I'm with you. Now, what have you heard about Dylan Gabriel? Because it's still got the questionable tag, and that's surprising to me. With like that hit was cheap. I'll say here first, like you got to get that. They said they take people out of the game for this targeting stuff, but when you hit a quarterback like that, they don't take you out of the game. That was just not right, and it's unfortunate. They weren't going to win the game anyway, but it really damages a kid that is trying to make a living.
Yeah, that was. I agree. That was a cheap shot. That sucked. In terms of what we're going to do with him, listen. If I knew he was fully healthy, I'd have a tough decision to make. At $9K with a lot of question marks surrounding him and he can play, it's just not worth risking. There's so much of your salary. He needs to be so good to pay that salary off with question marks around him. I just think you got to fade him.
I agree, and we're going to talk about this in a few minutes. But CJ Stroud, $200 more. Like,
give me him.
So that just we're good. We're good here. But that gets us to like, do we even go Gray or Mims? Because I mean, Mims probably gets a little bit more down now, and they've priced him down a little bit from where he's been. I don't know if I can go either.
I'm with you. I just, again, I think the only my sentiment for this entire game, for these guys in this game is I can get behind the notion that you just think this is going to be the highest scoring game in the slate and you want to target guys in this game and you're going to play them for that. Fine. In terms of everything being equal, Eric Gray and Mims with a questionable quarterback are overpriced for what they do. If they were $1,000 cheaper, they'd be right smack in the middle of my player pool with everyone else. But I just don't want those two guys being, one of the top 2 most expensive guys in my roster for tomorrow. I don't think that's where I want to invest in them.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like, if you're going to invest in this game, my opinion is invest in it. Like, don't try and 1-2s it. Like, Go ahead. Play this whole game stack it. Otherwise, just go Bijan, maybe Mims, and get out of there. Like, and that's where I would be right now.
I agree. You want to build one stack where it's just this game loaded up? Fine, do that. I get that. And then, like you said, I'm the same way. Then you can still Bijan is play anywhere, right? He's going to be amazing. But other than that, maybe Mims or maybe my Sanders play. But that's about it.
Yep, agreed.
All right. Michigan and Indiana. I'll start on the Indiana side. It doesn't probably make sense to target too many Indiana players against Michigan, who's got a pretty good defense. Maybe if you want to take a look at Cam Camper, who they throw to a ton, I can see it at 5,200. But
last week he was a downer a little bit, right?
Like, yeah, he was.
Yeah,
but he was a downer, but he wasn't a complete flop. Let's take a look. What were his final numbers?
I feel like he was like a 12 at the most.
He's also questionable.
Because I definitely loaded up on him. He might have left the game, and that's maybe what got me. So I'm looking. He was a. I don't know. He ended up with 25. He had some late action. Okay, so he was still solid. Yeah,
he was solid. And it was at Cincy. Listen, he had a good game against Illinois.
We were loading up on him at WKU. That price tag that day was just sick. I mean,
at 5,200, even against Michigan, I think I play him.
I would, as long as he's healthy. Like, he's definitely
healthy.
They're going to be down, right? They're going to be down.
They throw to him so much that if he gets 8 for 93 and a score, fine. For 5,200, that's great.
Yeah.
And I think he can do. I mean, Cincy and Illinois, they're not as good as Michigan, but those are two pretty good defenses that you wouldn't want to target a guy against, and he broke the slate on those two games. So I don't think this Michigan defense is what they were last year, where it's like untouchable. They're good, but they're not like you can't move the ball on them.
Right. I agree. But on the Michigan side, I mean, I love a lot of players. And when I say a lot, maybe I'm jumping way off the deep end, but I mean, Corum's gotten 30 touches the past 2 games, just lighting it up, averaging about 32 in those 2 games. And that was Iowa and Maryland. And this week they got IU, which is he's might be my best. Like Bijan's there at 9, but I think Corum puts up a similar game. If I could roster both, I mean, I'd be real excited.
Oh, Corum's my number 1 running back play this week.
Okay, good.
$1,100 cheaper than. I mean, listen, Bijan I'd rather play, but if I can save $1,100 to play Corum, which I don't put the gap between them at $1,100. That's the
right.
I'd rather have Bijan, but if I can save $1,100 and still get Corum, I think that makes more sense.
With the volume he gets, the volume is so key.
Yeah. So against this Indiana team, it stinks. They're not going to stop him. Like if he gets 30 carries against this team, the sky's the limit. He's going to go 150 and 1 is the floor almost at that point. So I love Corum. Other than Corum, though, I'm not all that interested in this Michigan team. Maybe another value play is Schoonmaker at tight end if All's out again, but that's a throwing a dart there too.
Yeah, I do like Bell. I know he hasn't really lit it up yet, but he's had some tough games against teams that have decent defenses. He's still their primary target, and I think there's a chance Bell could break out this week. So at 5,900, I wouldn't mind him in GPPs. I don't like him in cash games, but GPPs, I wouldn't mind just taking a flyer.
They're going to score points, so yeah. Someone's going to get there. I can see that definitely makes sense.
And he's definitely the best skilled receiver on that team.
Yeah,
and he gets running plays too. Like they do a lot with him.
They get him involved.
Yeah.
This Indiana defense is poor.
Bad.
All right. Now I'm excited for this Purdue Maryland game. I was telling you, Dave, before the show, Purdue is one of my favorite spots of the week for this game, for this week. Aiden O'Connell, I think, was hurt last week. I mean, he was hurt. He almost didn't play.
Yeah.
And he was no good. And I think that's got people off of him. Let's not forget, Aiden O'Connell is one of the best quarterbacks in the country. And this is now not just this year. This is for a few years now. If he's healthy at 6K against a Maryland team that's not that can move the ball and is not great defensively, I think this is a great spot for him. And 6K is just so much cheaper than the other quarterbacks. It literally allows you to get flexible and kind of squeezing in some of these top backs as well.
Yeah, it's funny. He was definitely not himself last week, but they pulled off this massive upset against Minnesota. It was awesome. And he still threw 40 times. I mean, he didn't get the points probably you wanted, but this week he will. And I am
a good defense.
I'm a Charlie Jones guy in, out, all around, and I'm licking my chops at being able to get it. 7, I know is I think it's a fair price. I don't think it's undervalued or overvalued. I think it's right on the mark. But I think you could see a 30-point Charlie Jones day. It's just Maryland's not great anywhere defensively. They will try and play with pace, and this game could really turn into a shootout. So we got O'Connell, Jones. I like a lot.
Listen, Charlie Jones, I actually think is underpriced. I think he might be the best receiver in the country. You're telling me Mims is going to be, what is he, $500, $600, $900 more than him? Please. I would much rather have Charlie Jones, who I think is a better player, at 7K. So
I'll take that. I saw him get knocked out in Syracuse, come back in. Dude's averaging 31 DK points a game at 7K and against Maryland. Yeah, you might be right. Undervalued might be the right word here.
And they pepper him with targets. I mean, it's not like some of these other guys. He's going to get the minimum amount of looks he's going to get is 12, right? And he might go up more than that. So the fact that he gets looked so many times, they think he's got a high floor, high ceiling. There's a lot to like about Charlie Jones, putting him with O'Connell. I want to mention Devin Maccabee, who's broken off a few big plays at 3,500. If there is a lineup, I mean, I wouldn't play Jones, Maccabee, O'Connell, all of those guys because they end up getting too much. But if you want to get different, get some exposure to this game elsewhere, I think at 3,500, he's in play. He plays. He's cheap. He's a GPP Hail Mary, but
yeah,
to take a shot on. But
no, and I've watched him, and he's probably He's a nice back for them, and Dory out, I think, would really help add value to that 3,500. I like that play. Little Hail Mary there. Now on the other side.
Oh, I got my big play. I haven't gotten to yet. My big play, and I'm going to break it down for you, is Payne Durham. Payne Durham is one of my sneakiest biscuit, whatever you want to call it, come out of nowhere play. And here's the reason. I looked up Maryland and how they've done this year, and I looked up who they've played. The first 2 weeks they played 2 nobody teams who I don't even know if they play at tight end, so you can't compare.
Buffalo they played,
Buffalo and Charlotte. I don't know if Charlotte even plays at tight end. Buffalo didn't do anything. So let's fast forward now to the last 3 weeks. They played SMU, Michigan, and Michigan State. So SMU has a tight end, Russell Maryland. He had 1 pass for 51 yards and a touchdown. He was the second leading receiver for SMU, and it was his best game of the year. That's against Maryland. Then they played against Michigan. Schoonmaker had 7 catches for 72 yards and a touchdown. He was the leading receiver for Michigan. And then against Michigan State, they had Hunt. Their tight end had 3 for 35, was the third receiving on the team, and it was his best game of the season. There's a trend here. They're not doing a very good job covering the tight end.
Yeah.
Now, Payne Durham is a guy that doesn't just get thrown in there. He's 5-6 targets a game. For a tight end, that's up there with anyone in the country. They get him involved in a game where the team that likes to throw the ball, if this becomes a shootout, they're giving up big plays to these tight ends. He's going to get a bunch of looks. My sneaky play of the week, I really like Payne Durham.
I'd like the call. I mean, I know he had a big game against Syracuse, put up almost 30 DK points, and Jones even lit it up that day too. So I guess my question to you is, would you feel safe playing both?
Yes, I'm going to. With O'Connell. No, I wouldn't. I'm not going to play both of them without O'Connell. Right? At that point, if I'm playing 2 pass catchers, give me the quarterback, because obviously he's got to have a big day for that to work.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wouldn't play them both without O'Connell. But if I'm going to play O'Connell, I'll do a double stack and just really be all in on that trio.
I like it. And for those of you like that don't maybe see Purdue as much as we've been watching them, O'Connell's going to get drafted in the NFL. Yeah, I don't know where yet. Some people have thrown 2nd, 3rd round grades. He might even slip a little, but in the end, he's going to get a shot. And in a pro style offense versus Maryland, I think you're right. You could see all 3 in your lineup.
Yeah, and this is the big shootout week. Now, what I've been trying to do all week, as you were starting to get to the other side, was figure out the run back. Right, if I'm playing 3 Purdue players in one lineup, I obviously want this game to be a shootout. So who can I put with them? And that's a challenge in Maryland, because Maryland spreads this ball around.
But they're finally priced in a way that I'm like, okay, right? Like I look at Jarrett, Demas, and Jones, and they're all under 6K, and I'm like, okay, finally, like you understand that this team spreads it out. So I will tell you, like, I'm a big Hemby guy. He runs hard. He's tough. He's like a Marshawn Lynch kind of guy, but Purdue shut down some good running backs already this year. I know Ibrahim didn't play last week, but I don't care. I'm off running backs against Purdue right now. That's just where I'm at. And for that sense, I'd probably look at a guy like, I think Jarrett is probably their best, but any of them. I think you could go with any, and I think one of them is going to break out this week. That's the hard part. I wish I could put a dial on it. I just think, watching what Syracuse did and watching what some of these other teams have done against Purdue, you can move the ball through the air. It's tough on the ground. So I would dial in a receiver.
I'm with you on that. The way I was leaning was more kind of like, since I'm with you and like they're all kind of close to even, go with the cheaper side because it's kind of a limit, so save some money. I think I like Jones, but actually the guy I probably like the most is their tight end, Corey Dyches. He's another guy. They throw him the ball. He gets 5 looks a game at 3,300. At least with him, all you need to do is catch a touchdown, right? If he gets 4 catches for 40 yards and a touchdown, that pays off value. If one of these guys gets 4 for 40 and a touchdown, that doesn't pay off value.
Yeah,
so
you're right. You're right.
Safer that way.
Yeah, I just wish. Last year we knew, and this year it's been a little different because they're just so like all 4 of those guys you're showing right now are all very good receivers. Yeah. So it's hard to like dial it in, but I'm ready to take a shot on Jarrett to finally break out. Demas is a guy I got to see it happen. Like he's the guy that got the knee injury last year, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I 9 for 85 all year. I can't pay that price yet, but yeah, I'm hoping Jarrett's at least got 20 catches this year.
I was playing Demas on here thinking it was because Demas last year
know.
was the top 5 receiver in the country. He was
I agree.
unbelievable. Since the injury, he hasn't looked the same. He just hasn't been explosive. They haven't been getting the ball. So at this point, we've got to see it before we can play him.
Yep.
He's probably the most talented, but
I thought he was, but with one knee, I don't know anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's move this over to this Auburn Georgia game. This is probably the one game that's like close to a fade, right? You don't want to play, even though they got a scare us, but you don't want to play too many guys against this Georgia defense. So
no.
I'm not looking anywhere on the Auburn offense. You can, I guess, play Georgia. I don't love Stetson Bennett here at 8,400. He's a little priced up.
No.
The only guy I probably really am looking at is
Bowers.
Bowers at 7,100.
Yeah,
he can have touchdowns, but that's probably it.
Yeah, I'm okay with Bowers. Okay is probably the best I can say for him. I love him. He's a great player, but he's really only returned value 2 out of 5 games this year. So you gotta be a little careful with him. Georgia's that type of team. They'll do what they want when they want. They wanted Bowers that one week when you highlighted him, and he went off, right? Do they want him? It depends. So I'm tepid on him. I like him, but he's my only play that I would from Georgia. I agree.
Well, that's what you're right. He's a GPP play. He's not safe. He has a low. For his floor is low. He can break off a big one, have a couple touchdowns, and have a big day. So you play him in a tournament, but for cash, you can do better.
Yep, agreed.
All right, another one. I think this Utah UCLA game is going to be a great game for entertainment purposes. However, I think both these teams are pretty good defenses. I don't think this is going to become a shootout. So, and I do think they're playing at 7,900 to 7,800. I think that's too much. There's so many other opportunities to look. My gut wants to get to Charbonnet because I love him, but this Utah defense is tough. Again, I don't know if I think this is not the best week to look at Charbonnet either. I'm going later in the year as the season goes on. I'm going to love Jake Bobo. And I loved what we saw from him last week. He finally went off, involved. But like I've been saying, I just don't think this is the matchup for it.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with you from a UCLA perspective. They are, Chip Kelly is like that. He wants to run, and he wants to run with his quarterback, with his running back, with the second running back, and then mix in the pass. And I think you're not going to beat Utah just throwing it all day long. So I think it's going to be a spread out game. On the other side, I do like Cam Rising at this price. I don't trust UCLA's defense. I know they did pretty well against Penix last week, but in the end, I think Cam Rising, decent value at 7,900. He's been pretty good this year, right? Florida game withstanding, he's gotten better every week. Went for 33 last weekend against Oregon State. You give me 33 at 7,900, I'm not mad.
For sure. Are you going to pair him with anyone?
That's the problem because he's so fluid on the ground. I might not. I might just try and play this game with a onesie-twosie kind of approach and pick one or two from this game. And if I picked one from UCLA, it would be Charbonnet. I just think he's still going to get the volume. So Charbonnet and Rising are my favorite. I probably don't pair him. I
don't know why. I'm loving tight ends this week. Every team, I like the tight end for some reason. But I actually think you can play Kincaid. Kincaid has a few big weeks, games a week. They get him the ball. Again, at this point, especially if you're going to play Rising, you want to pair him with somebody. He's cheap enough where I just think you can't pay up for Vele at 7,400. It's too much. But Kincaid can get in the end zone, and I think he could be an interesting target here.
Yeah. And Bobo, listen, 6,500 GPP for sure, but not cash for me. He could stand out, but it's on that verge of, is he a little overpriced versus a good Utah team?
I agree. When they end up getting into the Pac-12 and playing some of these softer defenses, I'm going to be hammering Bobo. This is not that matchup.
No, he's only had one game over 20 this year. That's the hard part. That's why he's a GP. He's a hit or miss. He's a home run or a fly ball.
Exactly. You said it right at the beginning, right? They want to run the ball. So they throw it when they have to. But if they don't have to, they're not going to. So that makes it tough for the top receiver.
Yeah.
All right. How about this Texas Tech Oklahoma State? This is an interesting game. This is going to be a fast game. I think this is going to have a lot of points. And as you guys know me already this year, I'm not shy about it. I love me some Spencer Sanders.
Yeah.
This kid has been, he's like 26 years old. He might be a grandfather. He's been around for so long.
Yeah.
But that type of experience is so valuable in college for a guy who does everything.
Yeah.
And this is a spot where Texas Tech likes to play at a super fast pace. He's going to get a lot of plays. And the good thing of it is this Oklahoma State defense is not quite as good as they used to be, which just means more points.
Yeah, it's funny. I think Coach Gundy knows that, right? I think he knows. He's like, last year I had a good defense. I had to slow it down. This year I don't. So I want to speed it up, and I want to put it in the hands of a guy that's 30 years old. So I'm with you. Like, I like Sanders from a DFS perspective. I think he's a trash quarterback overall, but playing at that pace and playing with a guy that is an offensive mind, I like Sanders, but I probably prefer Smith more on this end. He's had 3 games, 30 points or more, 1,000 less. I kind of like Smith a little more than Sanders just because of the price tag, but I could see myself game stacking this one. This is one of my favorite games on the whole slate tomorrow.
Yeah, that's what it is with Smith. Smith, the one thing that I love Smith this week too, the pace, the back and forth of this game, the fact that I think he's run a touchdown in every game but one this year. So the fact that he has the rushing and throwing upside, a lot, and the fact he had $1,000 discount on his price, a lot to like about Smith. My only concern with Smith is if Price doesn't play, they have a dwindled down receiving core, right? They throw to Price a lot. Well, what it does do is it makes Xavier White very interesting because Xavier White became their number 1 guy last week, and they threw to him how many times? 10 times, and he had a huge day. Will they do that again? It's a big question mark. You got to take a risk. But at 3,400, if Xavier White takes over the number 1 receiver role like he did last week, this is the smash play of the week.
Oh, it is. It is. I mean, I've liked Fuanji, but he's been maybe 6-7 targets. I mean, if White, what we saw last week gets to the regular point, way better than Fuanji. So I'm with you.
I mean, there's just so many targets. For 3,400, it's there's a big risk though, because it could just have been a fluke last week. He gets 3 targets this week, and then you're in the toilet. So don't go all in, but I am gonna have a good amount of shares of him.
Yeah, and then on the other side, I mean, my favorite receiver, and I'm surprised he's Braden Johnson. How?
Yep. The prices come down. He's their number 1 guy. He makes big plays. This is a great spot for him. Yeah. I love me some Braden Johnson this week at 5,600. And that's another one where I'm saying it's like there's some other guys in those games that we mentioned that I like, but you can just go to Braden Johnson and save $1,000 or $1,500, and I'd rather just do that.
Yeah, and I mean he's averaging almost 19 DK points. Hasn't been had a kind of off week last week. Baylor's good though, right? They're a solid defensive team. So you might get some people shine away because they're like, oh, Braden burned me last week. I think he's by far and away my favorite play in this game.
I didn't even have Bray on my radar. But if Bray plays at the minimum price,
that's true. Is he projected to play? I didn't even look.
This thing is saying he's questionable, which is risky. Right? I don't know how much, if it's his first game back, how involved he'll be. So just keep an eye on. If Bray plays at the minimum price and they say he's healthy, then that's something you got to consider there, because he shouldn't be the minimum. He's definitely going to be involved in this offense. If he's out though, then I will go back to also Presley had 8 catches last week for about 80 yards. I mean, at 5,100, he's also in play. Again, we're not going to be a shootout. If he gets a bunch of catches here at 5,100, he's in play as well.
And they're gonna throw.
For sure.
That's just what it is. So, I mean, this game's sitting at 67.5 right there at the second highest total on the board. I definitely think you can smash this game and hit, 6-7 players from this game.
There it is. All right. Wisconsin Northwestern. I don't even know if I need to pull up the dashboard, the depth chart. No. Braylon Allen's a very good player. He's Wisconsin's running back. They typically are good.
Graham Mertz kills him. Graham Mertz just kills him. I'm with you. Allen can go off any day of the week, and I'll be on the sidelines watching it, because right now, I just don't know if I can with that. How bad that quarterback is. You can stack the box and just play 9 in the box. He won't beat you. That's what scares me.
Not 8,500 for me. I don't. And the way both teams with the pace and the slowness. Maybe you want to consider Hull the Northwest running back. This doesn't seem like the week. There's other weeks where I'll go to Hull, but not this one.
Yeah, I'm with you. I love Braylon Allen, but I can't play him right now. I
Yeah,
can't.
and like you said, right, for $500 more, if I can get Robinson, that seems like a way better deal to me than paying the $8,500 for him. So
Yep.
let's look at this Ole Miss Vanderbilt game. My boy Kinchon Junkins has broken out.
Yeah, he
Um,
is your boy, and I spent so much time watching that Kentucky game last week because I bet Kentucky. I got a little lucky, but Kentucky let up 7 points in the kicking game. So don't get me wrong, I still feel good win that. But Judkins, I think, went for his fourth 100-yard game. He is. I mean, Evans is good. Judkins is better, and if they just, I think it's a 50-50 share. That's just what I believe in. And if you're 50-50 and you're 800 less,
and that's the problem. If Evans wasn't there, Judkins might be the best player on the slate.
yes,
Because if he's got 25 carries, he looks unbelievable. But the only thing limiting Judkins is the fact that Evans has taken some of those carries away from him, which doesn't mean he gets all the slates. But Judkins has looked unreal. And if he somehow becomes the bell cow, he's going to be a smash play for me. This is a pretty bad Vanderbilt defense. I think you want to get some shares of Ole Miss. So I'm going to go back to the Judkins. Well, I love what I've seen him. I don't think Vanderbilt's shutting him down. That doesn't seem to be the week that they stop him here.
no, I agree. And Judkins 85 carries this year, Evans 68. So it's been in last week 9 out of Evans. I mean, they obviously decided like Judkins was the guy last week. He got 15, almost doubled him up. So I could see it like it'll be sneaky, and it's a little too expensive. I could see myself trying to play them both, but really in reality, I'm probably going to be off Evans until I realize what they're going to do with him. And I'm all Judkins. I'm all.
Yeah, he looks great. I mean, he looks awesome. He looks
Freshman,
awesome.
right? I think he's a freshman.
Yeah, I think he's a freshman. Yeah.
Yeah, he's good, man.
So Junkins back in play for the foreseeable future. And then on the Vanderbilt side, this offense has a lot of questions. You know, Ray Davis is a good football player, but for $500 less, I'd much rather play Junkins than Ray Davis against Ole Miss. So Ray Davis is a little overpriced here. Definitely not going to play McGowan at 67. I actually like McGowan, but just like we've been saying, I'd rather go with the Oklahoma State receivers than play McGowan at 67.
Yeah, and I agree. And I know I think Mike Wright might be back.
They're better off without him.
It looks like they are. And I mean, they're both priced the same at 58. I like neither, but I mean, I think it's just Ole Miss has a very decent defense. They really gave Will Levis some issues last week and some problems, especially their front four creating pressure. I like nothing on Vanderbilt this week.
This Ole Miss defense is not that same defense from last year that would give up 60 points a game. This is better. Right. They're okay. They're not bad. They'll slow them down. So
I'm off Vanderbilt.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Okay, there's 2 games left.
Yep.
So we have this Washington-Arizona State game. In my opinion, Arizona State is untouchable. The only guy that's even a playable player on their team is Valladay at running back, and at 6,700, there's just a lot better plays this week against a pretty solid front seven on Washington. So I'm going to be fading Arizona State. On the Washington side, Penix is great. At 8,500, there's just other routes I'd rather. You can either go cheaper quarterback, or if I'm going to pay up, I'd rather go Stroud on Ohio State. So I'm not going to go there. I don't even know how to say his name. Tolapapa, whatever his name is. He's just not that good. 6,500.
Yep.
He might get a score and be decent, but he's not going to break the slate. So it's not worth looking at there. The main plays here are the Washington receivers for me. Polk, I don't love. He's my least favorite, but O'Dunn's has been really good. O'Dunn's is the guy I'll look to get involved. 7,200 is expensive, but he can easily get you 8 for 120 and a touchdown, which would pay off value. So O'Dunn's I'll have a few share of, and I like McMillan as well at 6,200.
Yeah, I actually like McMillan a little better. He has one more reception on the year, and getting almost $1,000 cheaper. Like I like McMillan a little bit more. So that's just where I'm at. But I mean, I don't think you could go wrong either way. Somebody's getting loose, if not both.
Yep. Well, those are the 2 I'm looking at for this game. And the final game of the night, this Michigan State-Ohio State game. Michigan State against Maryland last week looked terrible. And Maryland's not like the toughest defense. they did not look good. And Ohio State is a 3 classes up in defense. So I'm completely fading Michigan State. Now, as we know, for the last 2 years, the number one rule in fantasy has been target the pass catchers against Michigan State. And is Ohio State a heck of a team to do that with? I mean, they got 3 NFL players at receiver. So I'm probably going to prioritize the passing game here, even though I like Henderson. Henderson's hurt. I guess the only time that this running game will become interesting to me is if Henderson's out, and then we know Mayan Williams is going to get all the carries, and maybe I like him there getting a bulk of it. But for the most part, we're looking at this passing game here. Stroud's in play. He's expensive at $9K, but he can break the slate, so he's definitely in play. And then, I think Smith-Njigba is the best player. We don't know how healthy he is, and even if he plays, will he play a full game? I don't know. I will have a few shares of him because he can go for 160 yards and 2 touchdowns. He's almost uncoverable. I don't think Michigan State's gonna have an answer for him. And then if he doesn't play, Emeka Egbuka will be my second favorite play.
I agree. Egbuka led the team in targets 4 out of 5 games. He's been very good for them. I think he's getting like a 27% target share. So I like Egbuka better than Harrison. So I'm with you there. It's all about Njigba and awesome, right? He's a great player. We saw what he did in the Rose Bowl last year, but we're just not sure he's all the way there. So Egbuka is probably my favorite target on the Ohio State side, and Stroud is 100% in play for me. I just remember one game last year. I think he had 8 touchdowns by halftime against Michigan State, and he could have had 16, but they took the foot off the pedal. And not saying he gets there this year. That it's probably a little bit of different game script, but could I see 4? Could I see 5? Absolutely. And 4 or 5 at this price, gets us where we need to be.
Totally. Yeah. They're going to score 4 or 5 touchdowns. It's a matter of how many are throwing, how many are running, because they're going to get the points. The one thing I will add is, Marvin Harrison is my least favorite of the 3. He definitely will come with the lowest ownership, and he does have the upside. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if Marvin Harrison ended up having the big day of the 3 of them. So if you want to be a sneaky GPP play and go with the guy who's going to have the lower ownership and might have a big day, that's certainly within their own possibilities here too.
Yeah, agreed. And on the other side, it's interesting. Then I was waiting for the breakout read for Jalen Reed, and he finally had it last week. 19.1 DK points. I think I'm okay with that over Coleman. I think I might go back to a little bit of Reed. I mean, they're going to have to pass, right? They're going to have to try and keep some type of pace here. I'm not interested in Thorne. I'm not interested in running backs, but I could get there with 1 or 2 of the receivers. I'm probably most interested in Reed.
Well, it's fair. He is cheap enough. I mean, 4,900 that's low. And in a game where they might be down, 20, 30, and they're going to be just airing it out, I think that's a good point. I just was so turned off by their offense last week. They looked so bad, and the good game this week. But yeah, I think it's fair, especially if you really want to do a Stroud stack in this game and you want another piece of it on the other side. I think Reed would probably be the best route better too.
Yeah, but I'm interested in nothing else. Thorne is terrible, and
I'm with you.
He's 20 points best.
That's a wrap for this week. A lot of games, and a lot of exciting games. So it's going to be fun to watch. Get your lineups in. The most important thing for college football, I can't stress this enough. There's always going to be a lot of attractive guys who are very expensive, and you want to play them. Keep this in mind. If you try to force them in and dive down and try and play these scraped 3,000 guys that don't have high potential, it's going to be counterproductive. Make sure you like every guy on your roster. If that means sacrificing playing a 9K guy for balancing out more, you're better off for doing so than you are forcing in these top price guys and praying some 3K guy scores a touchdown because that's just not going to work out for you more often than not.
I 100% agree. Like, it happens too much. You see Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, and you know them because they're on the 1 and 2 teams in the nation. And you just said, I got to get them in and fit everything around them. No, you got to fit your core guys in and see if they then fit your budget and fit your lineups. They should be the last ones you're plugging in. Play around that. Put these other core guys in and see if you have enough left over for those guys that are kind of, they're going to get high ownership too.
That's precisely right. Exactly. So I like our looks this week. I'm feeling really confident going in. I got a feeling we got a big week ahead of us. Good luck this week. And please feel free to give us a follow, hit the like button. It goes a long way. And drop it on Twitter. Let us know how your lineups did. If you're making money, we'll report back next week. Tally the winnings, and we'll do it again. Good luck.